10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And we are live. How are you, Christie?
Good morning. Good morning. Happy Valentine's Day to you.
Thank you so much. Happy Valentine's Day to you as well. And welcome here at the Meticulous Moments podcast, where we facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. Now, Christie, you and I had an amazing virtual coffee. You had me in goosebumps. I was nearly in tears. We laughed. We had so much fun together. I know you. We've talked on Messenger. We met through Dr. Obam. But for those who are not acquainted with you yet, will you just tell them who you are before I go into your bio?
Sure. Well, welcome everyone from Australia. We're going across countries here in different time zones. I suppose there's too much to tell, but I'm just relaunching after being in rehabilitation for a few years. So I'm putting my foot back in the water, and thanks to Juanita here, I'm on my first ever podcast right now. So this is going to be exciting. But yes, I'm looking forward to empowering women and teens across the globe this year and beyond. And thanks to platforms like this and wonderful people like you, I had that opportunity to share it amongst other people's resources and contacts and platforms. So thank you.
I love that, Christie, and I am super blessed and honored to be the first person to ever interview you on a podcast. You know, you are such a special person. Australia and Africa meets, and that was also the Underdog Millionaire Academy, and you have an extremely impactful story, and I want to dig into that story this evening because I know your story is going to change lives. So I want to read your bio before we go into our discussion. Christie Kearney is based on the Fraser coast of Queensland in Australia. I live in Queenstown in Africa. Christie has been an empowerment coach for women and teens since 2011. Working towards those moments that are owning you for you to take back control so that when those moments are triggered, they will slip off your body like a raindrop rather than dirt that hangs on for dear life. I love this. The pain will be less and the duration shorter. Just like learning to walk, it takes time and practice. Christie does this through one-on-one coaching in person or online, from a 12-week to a 12-month program. Tell us about your programs. I know you recently started. Let's start, I think, with your life story, because that's what's captured me, and let's work towards what you are doing now.
Absolutely. So I'll do the short version because we only have a certain amount of time here online, on air. So growing up, it was a single parent experience for me, and it was split across Australia. Mum was in Sydney, Australia, and my father was in Western Australia, so other sides of the continent, the country, sorry. And it was tough, but they were polar opposites. So I had experience growing up, mental, physical, emotional abuse, and just living with like a Jekyll or Hyde. You didn't know what you were going to get from one day to the next. And then I went to the polar opposite as a teenager and had complete freedom and nothing but love and warmth around me, which was very foreign to me for quite some time. But it takes a village, and indeed I was fortunate enough to have a village. But of course, as we all understand in life, some things already take hold of you. So things that already taken hold and had planted stories in my own head, which we all have, we all have those stories in our own head. Some of them are true and some of them have just been blown out of proportion from our own self-worth. So moving on, I was helped to overcome that through the love and respect from other family members that I was then living with. But, you don't know what you don't know until until you know it. And there were things that came up along the way where it, just like you just shared there, where there were things that I didn't realize had taken a hold. And it's interesting how over the years that little chapter there that you shared has changed. If you'd asked me this in the beginning of my journey, I would have said something along the line of nails down your back, that leaving an imprint scar, and for things that are holding on, like, a vice around your throat. That's how raw and hurtful and so much pain and emotion that it shared at the beginning of my journey. And into my adult years, met a wonderful man, but sadly we only had three years together before he was taken away. And that was me at 23. And I went through thinking it was my, crazy how you think things sometimes. You look back and you're like, what was I thinking? I blamed myself for almost 10 years that he was gone, and that I had nothing to do with him passing. And over those years, I just did not love and respect myself. And of course, if you don't love and respect yourself, others around you don't love and respect you either. So I started realizing, when I looked at who was surrounding me, and was like, why are they all treating me like that? And it was almost like a bizarre, some people think I'm a bit cuckoo and need a straight jacket, but hey, that's fine. I think we all need a straight jacket at times. But it was almost like an out of body experience, that I looked down and sort of saw everyone around me, how they were treating me. But then I also looked from the outside in, looking at how I treated myself. And I shared this with you the other day, and I'll share it again for the audience. It was as if one night I was woken up by who knows what, the inner voice in my head. And it was as if someone had lifted me up and sat right up in bed and was, politely shaking me and giving me some virtual slaps across the face and saying, how can someone love and respect you if you don't love and respect yourself? And it was almost like, the starting of some of those old movies, dun, dun, dun. And it was just like, then the heavens opened up and the angels are like, ah! And I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
That makes total sense.
Yeah. Wow.
And it took a long time to get out of my own head. We're all stuck in there at times, so we can all relate to that. And it's almost like that cartoons growing up, where you've got like the angel and the devil on your shoulders, and it's like, do it, no, don't do it, do it, don't do it. That's how I best describe it to people, that there was those conversations going in my head. And thankfully I didn't actually have those conversations out loud, because otherwise I don't think we'd be having this conversation today. But I realized after that it all started with me. And I want to be the person that's leading by example for others out there that need that role model, that maybe didn't have that role model. And I work with women and teens because if I had someone like I am today in my life as a teenager, I think the whole, my whole outlook would have been a whole lot different, and it wouldn't have been as raw and as many emotions of a roller coaster that I've experienced in life. Then as a woman, I've only lived as a woman, right? I'll just put that out there. So growing up, I've realized that when I reach my adulthood, and sometimes I wonder if I've actually reached it yet at 44, but that's another story. I realized that if I had someone like me in my life as an adult, to tell them how it is, to let them know that they're not the only one. Because there's many conversations we don't dare to have with someone because we're, too concerned on it that they're going to judge us and things like that. And, we waste too much time and energy on what other people think of us. And if we sit down and actually think about it and be completely honest with ourselves and others, you're the last thing on their mind.
Yeah.
So why are we spending so much time in our own head and in our own heart? And sometimes it reaches down into the gut, where you have your twisted guts and things, where if you were completely honest and you read studies and things, you're wasting too much time on what other people think. Just be concerned on what you think about yourself. And if you don't like what you think about yourself, then there's opportunities out there to change it. And that's what I realized on my journey. So my 12-week and my 12-month programs, that's what I learned over 12 years. So you don't have to go down that journey of that roller coaster of, loving and hating yourself and having those good and bad and ugly conversations with yourself and others, that you are able to take control of you and be happy with what you see in the mirror.
Yes. Yeah.
So that takes me to where we are now. After starting to love and respect myself, I came back. I was living in the UK at the time. I came back to Australia, and what I realised is when I went back to where I lived and where I used to work and all that kind of thing, everyone was still doing the same thing. Nothing had changed but me. So I didn't fit in there anymore. I couldn't relate. I didn't enjoy their company like I once did because I'd outgrown them. Yeah. So I took an opportunity to relocate to where we are now, Queensland, Australia. And a little while after living there, I think it was about a year or so, a mutual friend wanted to introduce me to someone on a blind date. And it was probably the only thing I hadn't done. And so I went on a blind date, and almost 15 years later, we're happily married, 2 beautiful children, 2 beautiful sons. And as I shared with you the other day, we still love and respect each other so much, even today, after all these years, that we've actually married each other twice.
Beautiful. I love
so once
that.
here in Australia and once in Las Vegas by Elvis, because my husband loves Elvis, and he just thought that'd be pretty cool. So we've done that, and it's all about where you set those boundaries. So those relationships that you set with yourself and those relationships that you set with others, you lead the example. So if you're loving and respecting yourself, they're going to follow suit. So they're going to see how you treat you, so they're going to do the same. And if they don't, then they're not someone that's, they need a wake up call, and it's not potentially your option to do that. So I could talk all day. We know that. We found that out the other day. But has that covered any questions from there? Because I know we went deeper into it the other day.
I love it, and we've only scratched the surface. I wanted to ask you, because this is something that really, even after our virtual coffee ended, I was thinking about what you were saying and what we were sharing and the conversation that we had. And I would love for you to tell the audience what you went through after that traumatic experience, where, after that for 2 years, you were kind of just taking care of yourself, being a mom, being a wife, looking after your beautiful horses. Would you like to, explain that to the audience? Because it was such a traumatic event, and to see you really rise from the ashes and stand up and be here. I'm getting teary now, and be here with me all the way in Africa sharing your story. I mean, that took a lot of effort and dedication and resilience. Please tell the audience what I'm talking about.
Sure. So as I said, I'm just coming back into opening my books again and opening myself to coach clients again after a few years off. And some people, they always, when you hear those kind of things, your mind starts going, and the different things that have thrown out of people's mouths when I've shared that, I'm just coming back. It's taken me some time, because like a lot of things that women and teens, or men and anyone, any human being, or any living being, actually, it's not all on the outside. You can't actually see most of the time what that person is going through. And so, of course, looking from the outside in, majority of people wouldn't have known any different.
Yeah.
And so a few years ago, I thought that I was getting, because here in Queensland it's extremely hot all year round. I think we maybe have like 1 or 2 days of winter that you may not even need a jumper. So that's just teasing everyone wherever you live. Sorry about that, because I know most of the world's snowing at the moment.
Yeah.
Meanwhile I'm here melting. So I thought I had been treating heat stroke or sunstroke for quite a while, and then went to bed one night not feeling too good, woke up in the morning feeling okay, but by the time I dropped the kids off at school, I had I can't even think of any nice words to say, but a really intense pain across my forehead and across my chin. And I didn't realize, I've been told after what the health issues that my body has been through, that I have a high pain threshold. And I rang my husband and said, where are you? Can you come back and take me to the hospital? And he's like, yeah, okay. So he's come back, and I'm walking up and down in the house, pacing. And any women that have had children, you'll probably understand this one. But he's walked into the house, and I'm breathing. And he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. He's like, no, you're not. It sounds like you're about to give birth. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay. And it was just short, shallow breathing that, for whatever reason, that was my coping mechanism. So he took me to the hospital, and as soon as they heard, as a woman, as they heard me having pain on my chin, they immediately rushed me, put me on I think it's a EKG machine. So they thought I was having a heart attack or a stroke. And when they checked all those vitals, I wasn't, thankfully, but it was the pain in the head. And so I'd said that, they said, oh, could it be a migraine? I'm like, oh, I'm not sure. I don't know. So anyway, they treated it as a migraine, and thankfully that's what it was. And, we've all had those experiences. I do love and respect, the Western medicine. I do love and respect that, the time and hours that it takes for them to learn what they learn. But in this instance, it was like, okay, thank you. And it was just like I'd been just checked out, and I'm like, okay then. So I'm not the professional in that area. So I've just continued on my way, went home and packed for a weekend away, and drove my horse and I 4 hours one way and 4 hours back for a weekend away. And I'd started thinking, oh, is that in my imagination? But over the weekend, I was getting a lot of like really confused looks when I'm talking to someone. And then I got home, and then my kids, I have to remind myself, I'm raising two wonderful, independent children. And they're looking at me and they're like, Mom. I'm like, what? They're like, you're confusing me. I'm like, what are you talking about? So some of the times I wasn't making sense with what I was saying. Yeah. So they were words, but they weren't in the right order. Yeah. And then the other thing was, I was saying yes when I meant no, or I was saying no when I meant yes. But my brain and my mouth weren't telling me that they weren't matching. So I've gone, right, okay. So I went to my doctor on the Monday, and I was thankful that we have had a long-term relationship with the family, and he's been our doctor for many years. And he's looked at me and he goes, are you okay? And apparently I had an expression on my face, like I suppose most of us have had at some point. And you're like, are you okay? And you're like, yeah, no, I'm fine. Oh. And you're really not. You're just used to saying, yeah I'm fine. Okay. Or I'm okay. And when he looked at the report, he went, oh. And I went, what's ooh? And he said, the level of migraine that you had is the recovery from it. And I'm like, yeah. He says, the equivalent of having a stroke. And I went, oh. Goodness. Oh, okay then. So I probably shouldn't have driven myself and my horse on our own 4 hours down country roads and things. And he went, no, but even telling you, it's like someone asking me to chop off a limb. If you asked me to give up my horses, that's not an option. They are so much therapy for me that there's not a chance that's going to happen. So then, the questions started being asked to him, like, oh, okay, so, what do I need to do and how long is it going to take? And he's like, it's the brain and it's your body. It'll take as long as you need. And I'm like, oh, okay, because we all love it when we don't have a direct answer, especially me. And so I was like, okay. And he just said, you just need to shut all the tabs down in your brain. So like as if your brain was the computer screen, every one of us, if we look and we go, oh my goodness, we've got 52 tabs open, or 222, had to close all of them down and just do the basics. Now, I was very fortunate that I was still able to walk and talk, even though some of my talking and my walking wasn't as stable as it should have been. So I went and did some rehabilitation with hand-eye coordination and things like that, and started doing some brain activities. And it was like I felt like I was in someone else's body at times. Just knowing what I used to be capable of. And then I'd, in a good moment, or I felt good, I'd try and I might have succeeded, but then it's wiped me out for the rest of the day. Yes. So there were many, many times, I'm very thankful that my children and my husband are very understanding that if mum has gone to the dark room, so my bedroom in the dark, then she needs quiet time. Thankfully, I haven't had to be, touch wood, hospitalised since then. But I had to not reinvent myself. I had to get to reintroduce myself to myself, if that makes sense. I had to get to know what I was capable of now and what I could and couldn't do. And there was many times that I was angry and frustrated at myself, that I know I used to be able to do that and now I can't, or if I do that, then I'm wiped out for the rest of the day. So there was a lot of negativity around myself. So I, again, had to do my own work to myself again and remind myself, hey, you could have been having to learn to walk and talk again. You could have been in hospital. You could have had use of one half of your face. There was many conversations that I had to have with myself on a regular basis to remind myself that this is all, the world works in mysterious ways, and whatever your beliefs are. And this was my journey. So, hey, why not throw that in there? There's been a whole lot of everything else in my life. So why not? Let's just, life's been too good for too long, or something like that, So I've come back stronger. And it's probably been about 6 or 8 weeks now where I felt confident enough with my words and felt confident enough to be able to share and work and coach with women and teens once more after a few years off. And sometimes you need that. It might not be a few years for yourself, but sometimes you just need to sit in your own company and just recharge. If we actually had a battery on, do you remember old school where you used to have on one of our very first mobile phones where it'd have little blocks of how much battery you had left? Yes. Imagine that on yourself. Majority of us are running on that end battery where it's usually not green, it's usually red, or that you're running with the empty light of the petrol on the car on all the time. In your body. And that's not good for anybody. We know that. You don't let your car get down that far and run it till it's finished. As soon as you see that, you're like, oh, I need to recharge. So we need to think of that for ourselves. And of course, if people are watching us, whether it's our family or whether it's loved ones, whether it's clients or our audience, to lead by example. So you look after yourself and love and respect yourself. So what are my children going to do if I love and respect myself? Yeah. If I restore myself with rest, if I, eat nutritious foods, hydrate myself, if I'm going to be doing that. And it's the same with if we did the polar opposite, if we're angry and we vent and we're physical and we're always yelling and screaming and always with anger, monkey see, monkey do. So what are the children going to do? So it's always all the time. It's again the most common conversation I've had with myself. Since I started the journey of self-improvement and self-love and self-respect is, am I leading by example? So any actions that I take or anything that I do, am I leading by example? Yeah. And if I'm not, then I sit and think about it, have a reality check for a moment and then continue. So that's where we are today. So the words sometimes still get a little bit muddled, but it's doable. You know, sometimes my thoughts and my mouth are not as fast as each other. But the best way that my rehabilitation person shared with me is, she says, what we're trying to do is as if your brain is hot wiring a car. So when you're trying to get that spark, you know, it's taking a few times, and then, oh, there we go, we've got it. So thankfully, that's very rarely happening these days, that it's always igniting on that first attempt. But if it isn't, then I come back to myself and go, okay, am I overdoing it? Have I overcommitted to things to myself? And just baby steps, you know, one client at a time. You know, I'm not opening it and saying, hey, you know, I've got this many hours a day, come on down. Because, of course, if I'm not working at my best ability, you're not getting the best from me, and nor is anyone around me. So leading by example all the time.
I love that, Christie. You know, you're such a beautiful soul. You're such a beautiful spirit, beautiful human being.
Thank
you know,
you.
I was really touched by everything that you'd gone through, and the strong, independent women that I met on the Zoom, you know, and I have never heard you not matching your words and, you know, your actions, everything. You've made your comeback. And if you hadn't told me what you'd been through, I wouldn't have known. So I want to say from my side, you are back, girl. You're going to do this. You're going to pace yourself, but you are going to get there. You were born to be victorious. And
Thank
you
you.
are an example to us. You're an inspiration, because you could have just sat down and let it go and give up. You could have given up, but you didn't do that. You worked at it. You realized you had to like tone it down a bit. You did that self work. You changed the self talk, and here you are. And I believe now that you are back in you know, after that trial and tribulation, you are going to really touch a lot of lives. I'm so excited for you. I'm so proud of you. I love to see people exceed. I love to see when people don't give up. And I want to ask you something, because I was wondering about, you know, when you were speaking and telling us what had transpired, what were your thoughts? You know, what were the things that you pondered on when you were going through that time of healing? What were the things that came to your mind? Because there might be someone in the audience this evening that hears this, that's going through something similar, that maybe have negative thoughts, and they don't know that there's other people out there that have experienced the same thing. What were those thought patterns, and how, if they were negative, how did you kind of address them for someone in the audience that maybe just need that nudge of positivity?
So I went through every emotion you can think of, because I knew what I once was capable of. And there were moments where I call this version, I think we're at, like, you know, Christie 2.0 now. So the earlier version, you know, there was no stopping. There was positivity just oozing out of every pore, and that had diminished. It wasn't even existent for quite some time, or if it would be like a revolving door. So it'd peek in and then it'd be gone again. Then it'd peek in and it'd be gone again. And so it was, again, like that cartoon. It's the best way I can visualize it for people. There was the good and the bad. So the devil and the angel sitting on the shoulders, or having that battle within my head and my heart, where you can't do anything. You're not going to get that back. You know, you're not worthy. You're not, you know, all of that stuff that, you know, I don't even want to have come out of my mouth anymore. Those thoughts were coming, you know, tenfold. And that's when I'd be like, whoa, you know, like, stop, let's just stop right now. You know, again, didn't slap myself, but again, you know, be like, you know, like just virtually like, hey, wake up. Let's just actually rethink this and be like, okay, look, you once upon a time did this. So I continually had pep talks with myself within. Didn't sit down and, you know, Mum, who are you talking to? I'd be having those conversations within, and a lot of that time would be when I'm in the dark, in my dark room, and feeling just the pressure on my head, or it was almost as if I was looking through like some material or something, like it was not clear, it was very foggy. And same with my thoughts, it was like when you've just got, you're drained empty. So like if you've had a virus or something like that, and you're just even your thoughts are foggy, your vision is foggy, just everything is foggy. And slowly, I sometimes go to sleep having those good talks. You can do this, you're going to get through it, tomorrow's going to be a better day. And waking up and be like, okay, this is a new day, this is how we're going to do it. That didn't happen every day. There were some days where I just like, oh, I'm awake, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. There was a lot of that. Like, it was really hard. But once again, it's not only me in my life, it's not only me that needs me. So there were times when I needed to transport my husband to and from work, my kids to and from school, my dogs, as much as I'm sure they would allow it, they would be happy with it if I let them fend for themselves and go eat the fridge. They need to be fed as well. And same with my horses. They don't have access to, well, they have access to grass, but that's a bit boring. You want extra stuff too. So they relied on me as well. And once I'd actually gotten myself out of bed, which we could all relate to at some point, where we just don't want to adult, we get ourselves out of bed. And then once we've, had those I love yous goodbyes when the kids go to school, the hubby goes to school, the absolute adoration and enthusiasm that the dogs have. Like, oh my God, she's here. Oh my God, she's feeding me. Oh my God. That is why you get out of bed. And then you go to the horses, and then they're talking, and they're running up beside you, at the fence line, and they're all over you. That's when I would be able to just go, it was worth it. It was worth it to get up and to be reminded on how loved I am outside of myself. So give some of that within and start replenishing it. So I speak a lot, and I'm sure you've heard the version of, make sure you refill your cup, make sure you fill your cup. And it's the same with when you're on a plane, the oxygen mask, they always say fit yours first before you fit another's. So I take that when, into consideration when I just bring it down into more than just the oxygen mask and more than just the cup, and just bring that into that leading by example. So once again, am I leading by example, giving up and lying in bed and just letting it consume me? No. I don't want my kids to be giving up and lying in bed, or anyone. I don't want that for anybody. There's more to life than that. And that also means that they've won. So whatever it is that you're battling, whether it be a person, or whether it be your inner thoughts, or whether it be your health, or your career, or your financial situation, whatever it is. So to be able to start leading by example and living, eating and breathing that, it was a roller coaster. But I'm not a fan of roller coasters. We go to a theme park, I'll be watching. I won't be getting on it. I've had enough of those in my life. In real life, I don't need to go on one to simulate it. So yeah, that's I suppose what was the conversation that was continual in my head and heart throughout those few years. And I know that I wasn't pleasant at times for my family, but they knew that I'd come out the other end, and they were just loving and supportive.
That's beautiful to hear. And I see your mornings when you describe how you feed your animals and how you go out to the horses and really just give them that love, and how they just reciprocate that. And I have many animals because I rescue them, and then I always say I'm going to nurture them back to health, and then I'm going to find them homes. But for some or other reason, they always stay. So I have a zoo here. Luckily, I have a big property, and they have caretakers. But there's nothing that beats those smiles that they give us, those wagging tails and that body language when they see us in the morning. Love horse riding. So when you spoke about horses, I was like, oh, I love horses. But you know what comes across to me, Christie, is, you have such a kind and compassionate heart. You love animals, you love your family. You are an empowerment coach for moms and teens. And that is not an area in which many people specialize or function or coach really, because it's always the focus is mostly on the services that you render are so needed, especially for the times that we are in now, with the things that the world has faced since COVID. You are really addressing a very unique niche and an amazing market. And I believe that you are just going to transcend the boundaries there. I believe that you are pioneering in that area. And I just see you, picking up that pace as the time goes along. And I just see you empowering a lot of people. That this is your purpose. This is your passion. I always say where purpose and passion meet, that is where the magic happens. So thank you for sharing that with us. You have, you are so enlightened. I believe through all that crushing processing that you've gone, that you've come out stronger, that you are enlightened. And I want to ask you, every single time you speak about this, I can see you and you speak with joy because you're through it. You've made it. You're stronger for it, and you know what's coming, and I know what's coming, and that's success and fulfillment and joy and peace and happiness. I want to ask you today, what are you grateful for? If you look back, over the last 2 years when you took that break, if you look back over your life, and this can be anything, what's the first thing that comes into your mind when you think about being grateful or gratitude or something that speaks to you?
To some, this is possibly simple, but to me, it's the first thing that came to my mind is that I could continue to wake up. So that today's a new day. Every day was a new day. But you definitely, even through the distance that's between us, at the moment it's only a screen, but if we actually looked at the kilometers, it's a lot. Different time zones, it's early morning here, it's afternoon for you, and depending on where anyone else is tuning in from, it's a whole nother time frame. But I think the biggest thing, and this would be from the moment that I had that virtual wake-up call to start loving and respecting myself, is that for all of those years where I self-sabotaged and self-loathing and disrespecting myself, was that I had bottled it all in. I hadn't talked about it. I hadn't owned it. And that's why that chapter that I had you introduce me as sharing was such a pivotal moment, that my childhood, I briefly would talk tiny little bits about it, but I was so concerned back then, like many of us are, of what other people would think of me, that I didn't. And then going through grief and losing a loved one in your young adult years, I can remember sitting there, and sadly in that same year that I lost my partner, my grandfather passed as well, and my grandmother and my grandfather had been together 50 years, and I could see her. And you don't know what's coming, but I was watching her in the rows in front of me, just this sobbing mess, and I'm like, at that time I'd only been with my partner 3 years, and she'd been 50 years, and there was just no way that I could fathom what she was feeling and how heartbreaking and just debilitating that would have been for her. And I was only imagining it from like my own life experience. So that had been 3 years and hers had been 50. And I was just like, I don't think I could handle that. Yeah. Little did we know what was in store for us that year, that a couple of months later, my partner was gone. So I bottled all of that in, and that's not good. So many people, depending on your generations and, your upbringing, a lot of people are like, what's, family things, stay within the walls, or you don't tell other people about our problems. And, we've heard all sorts of scenarios.
Yeah.
But it is not healthy to hold it in. And that can go for anything, your bodily functions, your thoughts, your heart, it's lying heavy on your heart. And, a lot of the time it will manifest in health issues as well. So I always suggest, you know, my horses, I didn't know it at the time growing up, but my horses were my therapy. I would tell them everything.
Yeah.
And didn't know then. And it wasn't until there was some time where I was apart from horses and that I realized, you know, when I was reintroduced to them again, like they always had fond memories and always enjoyed it, but it wasn't a constant. So then to have that opportunity to have them constantly in my life, even my husband experienced it. He said, you know, you're even better. Like, you know, you're a great human being without the horses, but you're an even better human being having them in your life. Wow. And so for him to be able to see that, it was able to remind me and be like, do you know what? I thought that was just me, that I felt it. He's like, no, it shines. You can see it. So every day, you know, gosh, the amount of nicknames and things that I call my horses, you know, hello, my love of my life, you know, like they have all these endearing words, you know, whether they actually, you know, scientifically know how impactful they are.
Oh, sometimes they do.
Like,
they know.
Sometimes it's just like, yeah, just feed me. And then other times it's like, I love you too. So they were a huge therapy. Like animals are just are remarkable. And all of mine are rescues as well, Juanita. All of mine are rescues. I think at some point we think about it, you know, I've been my own rescue. Because at the end of the day, who you need, the one person that is going to be with you from day one to the end of days is yourself. So you need to be trusting of yourself. You need to be everything. You work on this model and you know, you might become a better version of it. And I'm not talking about that being, you know, the way you look. It's how you feel. You know, that you feel like your best version of yourself. Like I think it was when I hit 40, that was actually the best version of myself in my entire life.
Wow.
And I just felt like everything was running smoothly. And then like everyone says, you know, that things, you know, things do happen for a reason, and then other things happen. But here we are, you know, working back on that version again and getting to a new version of Christie 2.0, which if we look at ourselves, you know, how many versions have we had of ourselves in our lives? And if you don't like the version that you are, you're the only one that can change it. And you should be the only reason you should be changing it is for yourself, not anyone else.
That's the truth. I'm sure people in the audience and you will relate to this, but there are stages in our lives where through the growth that we have experienced, we are called to reinvent ourselves because we can't stay in the same place. We develop, we grow, we outgrow certain places and people and thoughts, and we move forward. And I realized that, you know, the gift that you have, that you are sharing here this evening and giving to the world, it is something that's going to help other people to propel them out of their places of stagnancy, to propel them out of their places of being in a rut. So I want to ask you, because Christie 2.0 is here with me. I'm so blessed, you know, that you are with me. You are so amazing. And I want to ask you, if you could give advice to someone that is in that swamp, maybe in the sinking sand, maybe in that between the rock and the hard place, maybe in a place of being just immovable to their mind or to their eyes, what would you suggest for them? How can they really work on themselves? What would your words be to them if they were sitting in front of you and really asking you advice?
So I had a feeling that this was coming. So I actually took some notes because there's so many things that I could say.
I love it.
At the biggest one, which again, it's huge, but it is so simple. Smile at your own reflection.
Oh, I like that. Yes.
And make eye contact with yourself. Big deep breath in, big deep breath out, and smile at yourself.
Yeah.
And if you do that every day, every morning, And if you can, to enhance on that experience and that feeling that's going to happen within you, if you can do music, some positive music that you can't help but, start moving your body to, and as if no one's watching. So possibly not at the lights, when you're driving to or from work or something, do the smiling reflection. But in the car, have it up as loud as you want. Yell and scream the lyrics. We don't have to all be, remarkable singers. It's for ourselves, but it's also a release. So it's the same with, you think about it. You walk down the street and someone smiles at you or just says, love your dress. Oh, you look fantastic today. Love those shoes. Thank you. Or if you go the other way, you're like, do I know that person? Why are they smiling at me? But it has you thinking in that positiveness. But the music is a huge thing. I quite often will do it. And it's gotten to the point now where my kids and I, we might say something and it's the start of a song or it's the words, lyrics to it. And then we all start breaking down into that, break out into that song. And we could be at the supermarket. We could be walking down the street. We don't care. We'll just start dancing. So, raising my kids to be like that is a beautiful thing. Your favorite song comes on at the supermarket. We're going to stop and we're going to, do it. Take time for yourself daily. So even if that's all that you do at the beginning is that smile and that music, you're doing something for you, not putting on the soundtrack of Frozen or the Wiggles or anything like that for the kids. It's something for you.
Yeah.
And, depending on how long your commute is to school or to work, you can have multiple songs, or you could even have that one song just on replay, if it really gets to you. Like, what's that song? It's from a movie, This Is Me. Oh, it's just
The Greatest Showman. Oh, yes.
Goosebumps, like that. You can hear the words and quite often I don't think there's a time where I don't get choked up when I sing along with it, So you've got to find your song, your anthem. And you want it to be uplifting. You don't want it to be like that, that choking up and that teary. It's a good happiness one. It's not a that I need to go and, just be by myself for a little while. Yeah. But don't ever hold those emotions in. So if you're feeling angry, put one of those angry songs on and just rah it out. If you're feeling sad, cry, let it out. Do not hold it in. Yes. And same with the good ones. Ideally we want a lot of good more than the bad and the ugly, but you've got to own those emotions and allow them out. To not hold them in, it's not healthy. It's not good for your mental, physical or emotional health. Absolutely not.
Wonderful advice. People can now, I know they've been making notes. They can take those notes, they can apply it, they can see the changes that they bring in their lives, and very uplifting to hear that it's not something that they are not capable of doing. They're not incapable of doing this. These are practical tools that they can use to better their lives, to look at it in a different perspective at their situations, and to move forward, to get out of that place where they feel stagnant. I want to ask you our final question, and I can't believe that our time has flown so quickly. But I want to ask you, any words of wisdom, anything that you feel to share on this platform, on your first podcast ever. I'm so super blessed. Anything of, some wise words or a quote that's coming up, or anything that you want to share with the audience for the end of this session? What would you like to share? What would that be?
Once again, I always lead with my heart. And
beautiful.
Three simple words. And if you can write this on a Post-it note and stick it to your review mirror, to your bathroom mirror, to the back of your door before you go out, anywhere, you are enough.
Beautiful. Love that. I love that.
So as a celebration, with it being Valentine's Day, I'm wanting to give some love and that Juanita's thankfully allowing that opportunity today, is that anyone that sees this, if they reach out to Juanita or myself through this and mention this podcast, an empower hour with me is what I'm offering.
Beautiful.
So
I
if
love
you want that time, you want an hour with me to delve deep and see if we can work together, whether it be 12 weeks or 12 months, then that's my gift to you, and to thank you, Juanita, for allowing this platform for me. So an empower hour with me.
An empower hour with the one and only Christie Kearney. Her first podcast ever. She's done so much work. There's so much love and care that has gone into her program. She is here to empower moms and teens. And this is going to be the start, this very moment of that takeoff, of that traction. Your comeback is here. We are with Christie 2.0. And I am super honored to be able to host you this evening, to bring your story to the world. And I want to say to the Meticulous Moments community, let's network with Christie. Let's cheer her on. Let's connect with her. See where you can collaborate. Contact her. Get your Empower Hour. Delve into those things that you're going through. Christie is here to serve and love. She's building a phenomenal business. She's an amazing entrepreneur. I met her through the Underdog Millionaire Club with Dr. Obam Bowen. And let me tell you, this lady right here is a high caliber leader. And she does lead with integrity. And she told you she leads with her heart. And that is something commendable. So from my heart to yours, my dear friend, thank you so much. Bless you for in everything that you do. Can't wait to see your horses one day. I might just pop over into Australia and come and surprise you. But thank you so much for what you've brought here and for being bringing yourself and your story. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you to the Meticulous community for joining us. Please stay tuned for our last 3 videos. You know what to do. We'll see you in the next session. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're the #1 fastest growing community and tribe of some of the highest level entrepreneurs all around the country and around the world. We're in 36 states across the U.S., in 11 international countries, and over 240 plus members, growing every single day. And I'm honored, excited, and I'm glad to say that I'm proud to be the official sponsor of the Meticulous Moments podcast with Juanita Kapp. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm excited for this journey.
Hey everybody, my name is Patrick Rude. I'm the owner of Rude Financial Services, a proud sponsor of the Meticulous Moments podcast, hosted and directed by the beautiful, strong, and intelligent Juanita Kapp. I cannot tell you enough about what this woman has done with this podcast and the effect that she has had on me and all of the other sponsors and people that listen. Don't miss it.